Okay, let's read Hebrews chapter 4, and we'll start with verse 14. I like these verses because they are really to the point verses, and they certainly let us know that we have the new, we have the better, all because of Jesus. Verse 14. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, therefore let us hold fast our profession, since we have that high priest. For we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are tempted, yet he without sin. Let us therefore, in view of this, come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Beautiful verses. Now these verses really strike at the very center of communion thought. And because Jesus lived the human life that he did, and because Jesus experienced what he experienced, and because he suffered the worst kind of treatment and final death, because of all this, Jesus qualified himself to become our high priest. Yes. And maybe some of us would say, so what? What does that mean to me? Well, let's see. Let's see if we can figure this out from the verses that we just read. We can ask, what is a high priest? And if so, why do I need a high priest? And who is he? This seems to be too sophisticated for me in my simple way of life. So let's kind of take a look at our text, and we'll see three important statements here. The first one is this: since Jesus is our high priest up there in heaven, we are to hold fast our Christian profession. Remember God in the beginning, how he created man, woman, pure. And God came down and fellowshiped Adam and Eve. I kind of like to think about that. That must have been a real fellowshipping. But then it wasn't long, or maybe it was a long time, who knows, it doesn't say. These first two sinned and broke God's fellowship by eating the fruit of the wrong tree. Therefore, God and man somehow needed to be reunited, because this sin came between God and man. Man needed to be reunited, and so there was a need of a go-between. There was a need of a mediator, a need of a peacemaker. In the Old Testament times, this mediator was the human high priest who went into the Holy of Holies there in the temple. That is where God was, and that is where man could not go, except only this one man, the high priest, could go in the presence of God in this Holy of Holies once a year. However, now in the New Testament, Jesus became the new and the better, who went into the presence of God up there in heaven, the real Holy of Holies, in the temple of heaven. So Jesus is our true high priest and our only access to God. The only access we have to God. A very simple truth. And this is why we are to hold firm the Christian profession. Because as long as we hold firm, we have access to God through Jesus, our high priest. Simple or complicated, that is the truth of what the Bible's trying to tell us here. Hold your profession. Hang on to it for dear life. This is our high priest access to God. Then there's a second thought. Coming from our text again, Jesus, our high priest, feels and understands our frailties. Yeah, our frailties. Because he was tempted and tried in every way just like us. That has some meaning to it. This is why it was necessary for Jesus to come and be among us and to experience us. Just like we live. He walked in our shoes. And he did it for 33 years. That's why he was called the Son of Man. He was among man. Jesus, therefore, became aware of our way of tempted life. And this so he could return to heaven and represent us in our frail condition in the presence of God the Father. This is why we can count on Jesus, and we must count on Jesus as our high priest, our lawyer in the presence of God in our behalf. We can't get there past the judge without him. This is why I so frequently tell people you must do something serious with Jesus in your lifetime before you meet him in the judgment. So Jesus, knowing our earthly experiences, can, because of that, appeal to the mercy of God as he represents us. And because he is the Son of God, we have made it all the way to glory as long as we hold fast to the Christian profession. Just another way of telling us how faithful we must be, lest we lose our access to God, lest we lose the approval of our mediator, our high priest Jesus. Then there's a third thought that comes from our text. It says, therefore, we are urged to come boldly before God to gain help in times of our need. You know, because of who God is and what is involved, I still hesitate at this over the word boldly. Because we are a shy type of people. We are even fearful type of people. When we think of God and heaven and eternity, we are so little. But we can enter our appeals to our Father because of Jesus. He was here. He knows what is here. He knows what we're like. And so we can enter our appeals in the courts of heaven. And you know, we need wisdom. And we can gain it through Jesus. We need strength. We need direction. We need encouragement. We constantly need so much more than what we are. And this we have in Jesus. And so we are to approach God through Jesus and do it with boldness. We are invited to march right up to the presence of God through Jesus with all boldness. And you know, I still hesitate. I still think, who am I? I still think, me, Lord? Going to God through Jesus? Yeah. And so at communion time, the communion table about which we think of our high priest Jesus, it's important to remember our avenue, our approach to God through this Jesus one who came here, mastered this life, and is in the presence of God for us. So we are urged, believe it or not, in view of all this, we're urged to do it with boldness. And I guess I have to say, Lord, help my courage. Help me to be bolder. And certainly above all, give me boldness when I try to touch, reach, and affect somebody else to come the same way with the same access to heaven. It's been laid out there for us, and it's all ours. Now we have to work on our boldness. Okay?